Everyone, I'm Erin Autin, Director of Research Programs at Zpryme, and I'm here with MaryAnne Brelinsky, the President of EDF North America today. Thank you for joining me virtually today, MaryAnne.
Thanks for having me, Erin.
So I think it's hard to have a conversation these days without turning to coronavirus, but I feel myself sort of wanting to disconnect and disengage more than usual lately. So before we get too deep into things, I'm reading a lot of fiction lately. So I just wanted to ask you, are you reading anything, or do you have a favorite book that you could share with me?
Well, I love to read. My favorite book right now, Outlander, the Outlander series. It's on Stars. They made it a TV show. The book is so much better, even than the series. So yeah, it's I would probably have to say Outlander. I'm also trying to get my teenage boys to read Atlas Shrugged. I think there's a lot of good lessons in that. They're a little intimidated by the page count, but I remain optimistically hopeful that I can convince them to do that.
Yeah, that's one that I never got around to reading, but
So good.
Maybe during this quarantine time, I'll have to. Yeah. So you actually did an interview with our co-founder, Mark Ishak, a couple years ago, and he asked you for a favorite quote of yours, and you shared the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Does that prayer hold a different meaning for you now?
It's funny that you asked that, because I have had this card, which is the Serenity Prayer, on my desk since college. It's the same one, laminated. It is interesting, because I do think when I think about the Serenity Prayer, and when we talked to Mark about it a couple years ago, it's always been the courage part of the Serenity Prayer that was really very meaningful to me. The courage to make change, the courage to be a leader, the courage to disrupt an industry that's not been disrupted since Thomas Edison. What I have found over the last probably 5 weeks is less focus on the courage and more focus on the wisdom part of that prayer. I think in this age, wisdom is more than just knowledge or the knowing. It's how you apply that knowledge to your daily activities, to the decisions that you make. And we are in uncharted waters with this coronavirus and how it has impacted the world. I mean, never in the history of mankind have we had all of the smartest brains focused on solving one problem. And in my small microcosm of the pandemic, and keeping the lights on, working with my employees, deciding on when to implement our business continuity plans, having the wisdom to make sure that you not only have the facts that you need, but that you follow through and do what's right for your employees and your customers and your counterparties is still very front of mind to me, but more focused on the wisdom, just really trying to apply and follow through on the things that I know need to be done.
So how are things right now really affecting your customers and counterparties?
It's a mixed bag. So I would say the blessing and the curse of being in the energy industry is it's always needed. People are always using energy. The lights need to come on. The air conditioner needs to run. The tweets and the digital and the Zoom meetings all have to happen, and none of that happens without energy. For the power stations that we work with, and the renewables and the gas plants, the uncertainty of their workforce, making sure they have their fuel supply, that they can have an understanding of what the demand destruction is doing to the market, is all really very relevant. To our retail customers, again, I think it depends. We're seeing, grocery, supply chain, hospitals, We serve 22 different hospital systems, and they're busy, and we need to make sure that they have sustainable, reliable energy. To some of the regional manufacturing, oil and gas customers, this is really unprecedented in the amount of volatility we're seeing in oil and natural gas pricing, low energy, electricity prices, just a tremendous amount of volatility that it needs to be navigated. So it really does depend on which customer segment, but everybody's got, things that they're focused on. And I will say that the ability to get the hedges done, to transact in ways that kind of weren't our industry norm before, people have adapted very quickly. And I think it's been heartening to see that even through this, the lights are staying on. You're not seeing. Can you imagine fighting this in the dark, like on top of everything? To not have the energy to go through it would be catastrophic. So I do really applaud the folks on the front line, the people running the power stations, the gas schedulers, just the multitude of people that it takes for us to have a reliable energy grid. So, continue, hopefully, we won't be in this method of working forever. Eventually we will be able to come out again. But I do think we are going to be forever changed by this pandemic, and hopefully, the lessons that we learn in this environment will be able to apply going forward to make it a better industry to work in.
Yeah, there's obviously so much appreciation for people on the front lines in the medical industry, grocery stores, everything, but the energy and utility workers are definitely included in that category for sure. So you actually sent out a memo to your staff that I read, and you mentioned that this had been the most successful month since last July. And then you also just touched a minute ago on your business continuity plan. Can you tell me a little bit about that plan? Did it include preparing for a pandemic?
I think the energy industry, especially those of us in Texas, were probably better prepared for this type of event because we have hurricanes. So we have to have business continuity plans. They're practiced, annually. So I do think from that perspective, we were better prepared than other industries. But what we found early on with our business continuity plan was, again, focused around hurricanes. It was taking a small group of critical people and moving them to a bunker someplace for 2 or 3 days while the storm passes, and then people come back to work. That doesn't work in a pandemic. So, first of all, you don't want people all together in the same place. You don't have your social distancing, and you can't just postpone or delay the business side of the administration of the business model for months if this were to go that way. So what we did early March is we revamped our business continuity plan to be a much more robust pandemic, focused. We did a drill the first week in March, and everybody worked from home. Everybody, legal, comm firms, settlements, tax. And what I think it gave people the confidence that when we did implement our business continuity plan on March 16th, it gave them the confidence to know that it was going to be okay. And it gave me the confidence to know that comm firms are going to go out, settlements will happen, cash will be applied, taxes will get paid. But it really is a different approach to making sure that your business can function when you can't see your employee base and walk over and ask them how's it going. So you really have to make sure that your communication plans and your systems, so those two things, really are robust to handle this long-term event.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that trial run was well worth it in the long run.
And it was good in that we had a punch list of things that came out of the drill back in the first week of March, and it wasn't anything. It was things like having printer, people who didn't have the ability to print from laptops, and hey, I wasn't sure which system I was supposed to. So it was great in that it really did make sure that every single employee could work remotely. You know, with our sales team and the traders, like those folks live on mobile devices and feel very comfortable. But you have to realize your entire workforce isn't like that. So we had some folks who had never logged in from home before, weren't sure how to connect their work laptop to their home Wi-Fi. But our help desk, you know, ticked and tied all of that out so that a week and a half later, when we actually did instigate the business continuity plan, it was everybody knew they could do it, which I think just calms the fears and the unknowns. So it's been incredibly successful. Really, I knock on wood every time I say that, but we haven't had any significant IT infrastructure employee. We've been blessed; none of our employees have tested positive. So it really has been being prepared. I love to say that luck favors the prepared. Having that under our belt and everybody was comfortable being able to execute their work remotely was important.
It's really impressive. I kind of wanted to switch gears to marketing for a minute. So a lot of brands are, you know, tackling the crisis head on, and others are sort of holding back, maybe touching on it, but not wanting to inundate people's email inboxes. What can our industry do to engage people and educate people, but not overwhelm them during this time?
I do think that we don't toot our own horn often enough as an industry. The fact that average American, I forget what the statistic is, spends 6 minutes a month thinking about energy or energy supply or their supplier agreement, and most Americans have no idea the amount of work and people and infrastructure that it takes to keep the lights on every day. I do think, and it's actually something I've been thinking about doing here at EDF is, you know, finding people at ERCOT, at the ISO, in the transmission distribution, and celebrating those folks that really are going above and beyond. You know, my real-time operators here, you know, they're continue to show up day shift, night shift, weekends, and have been really demonstrating a tremendous amount of courage in making sure that the power stations get dispatched and that all of the regulatory and you know, our compliance requirements are being met, and that our customers are able to meet theirs as well. So we certainly could do more to promote all of the hardworking men and women in the industry and highlight them for all that they have done for us. As like I said, to fight this in the dark would be catastrophic.
Yeah, and I think also this situation has really changed some leaders, even made some leaders, proven some people as leaders. What do you think is one trait that will be necessary for people to hold on to when we come out of this and most likely don't go back to a normal, but have a new normal?
I think that probably two. I'm gonna take your one and give you two. First is making sure that your employees know they're empowered. So in this remote working environment, you really do need to count on your people understanding what their delegation of authority is, what they're going to be held accountable to do, and deal with those things, because it is much harder to get group collaboration across multiple functions. You really do need empowered employees who can go tackle challenges as they pop up. So I would say that would be one. I think the other is empathy. When this crisis first started, and you really saw some people being profoundly impacted by it, and we all handle stress and things in different ways, I think it really became clear to me, we don't know how other people are dealing with this pandemic. We don't know their personal situations. We don't know if they have elderly parents at home or small children or husband or wife who just lost a job. Like, you don't know what they're going through every day. And so showing some compassion and being empathetic, and then listening to what they need and getting it for them is so funny. One of my favorite stories, I had, you know, employees say, I have this really big favor to ask. And I was like, what? She's like, I don't have a monitor at home. Can I get it? I was like, yes, we'll get you a monitor. Like it's you really listen and then act on what your employees are telling, and really try to embrace that we don't know what's going on in everyone's personal lives, and to help people get through this together, really will ensure that we've got a solid business platform, strong customer base, and loyal employees when we eventually do come out of it. So I really do think being empathetic is something that they don't teach you that in business school.
Yeah, I really like both of those. I think they're probably just good things to keep in mind as you go about everyday life too. Last question for you is there someone, a friend, a peer, maybe a stranger that you would like to give a virtual high five to today?
Um, a virtual high five. My brother Christopher. So my brother Chris lives in San Antonio and runs a critical care ICU. So he is dealing with COVID all day, every day, front lines. And his wife, Sarah, is an ER nurse. So the two of them, when I think I'm having a bad day or in need of a pity party, I think about what Chris and Sarah are going through every day, making sure that their teams have masks and protective equipment, and that they're coming home and changing and showering in the garage before they go in to see the kids, so that they are trying super hard to not bring it home. So I would say Christopher and Sarah, virtual high five.
Shout out to Chris and Sarah for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, MaryAnne. It's great to talk to you today, and I look forward to following your leadership throughout this crisis and beyond. So, really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe and wash your hands.